Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is a new series called The Triangle of Love for Fusion November. And a massive shout out to Dism for the art on the thumbnail as well. All her links are in the description down below, so make sure you go and give her some love. And make sure you smash that like button. Comment down below what you think of it so far and what's about to happen, and subscribe if you haven't already, because this is part 3, so what are you waiting for? Okay, hope you enjoy. Part 3, Luca's POV. Hey Marinette, Luca said softly. He had seen her arrive at the gardens, casting her head low as she pulled out her sketching supplies. She was upset, but only the way she got after seeing Adrien. Her heart crying out for love for this boy made her internal melody shift from major to minor. Hey Luca, she said, keeping her gaze fixed on the subject of the boy holding the red balloon. He slipped the guitar around to his front and picked out the notes she was emitting, knowing his music influenced her. Slowly, he lowered himself beside her, watching her pencil glide across the paper. She refused to look at him in the eye, and he knew why, allowing the tune to tell her he was here. He was willing to listen to her yet again and tell him how much pain it caused her to love another. If only she would let him transform this melancholy tune back into a happy melody. As her pencil slowed, he placed down his guitar and moved her book aside to take her hands in his. Following his own heart, he kneeled in front of her, feeling the cold stones protrude through his trousers. Finally, she gazed at him for the first time. What has muffled your song, Marinette? He watched her face fracture in front of him, before throwing her arms around his neck, and her tears soaked into his clothes. All he could do was hold her and allow his melodies to soothe her. If only she knew. If only he could tell her. If only he could tell that blind boy what he was missing in front of him. He held her for a while, letting her cry into his jacket, his hands rubbing her back soothingly, sensing her body react as he hummed out a tune. She pulled back, her face hot, red and sticky from tears. Your heart song should never be muffled, Marinette, he murmured, wiping a tear from her cheek. Your music is bright and vibrant. It deserves to be heard and cherished. The corner of his lips quirked in a gentle smile, by those who can appreciate it. He knew he was treading on thin ice, that this fragile soul before him was also the daring and fearless hero of Paris, and that the boy she yearned for wasn't him, but instead her partner, and yet still unable to place the harmonizing tunes into one melody. He knew Adrien loved Ladybug and had seen his attention shift towards Marinette. He had started to see what Luca had seen all along, but why couldn't he tell her? Why couldn't he just act on it rather than causing his beloved Marinette this pain? Thank you, Luca. It's just, I'm a fool for not seeing what's in front of me. She breathed into her arm, stretching it across her face, removing the last of the tears. Marinette, you are many things. You are no fool. I believe some people are blind to what's in front of them. Sometimes they take a while to hear the melody of their hearts. Without thinking, only reacting to her needs, he let go of her so that he could pick up his guitar once more and plucked out a lighter tune. For your tune, I only use the good notes that speak of happiness and joy. He stared at her as she closed her eyes, allowing the music to flow over her and seep into her heart. Are you attending the Halloween party tomorrow night? He watched as the words removed the tiny smile that had been forming on her face. I was, but I don't think so now. Are you not going with Alia, Nino, and... Yes, and no, not with him. His fingers stopped. Had she finally done what she'd feared, only to be rejected? How is this Adrien this foolish? What was blocking him from seeing this amazing woman in front of him that, given a chance, he, Luca, would love and protect, would never allow this painful tune back into her heart, to show her how special she was, make her believe it every single day. Now that he knew, now that to him there were no more lies, why she had acted the way she did when they dated, but he couldn't tell her, not yet. His fingers began moving once more, but this time reflected his own feelings, hoping she would listen. He had a choice in front of him. He could ask her for him, use this opportunity to show her what her life could be with him, or help her one last time to show Adrien who Marinette is and that they are made for each other. The moment he had seen Ladybug transform in front of him into Marinette, the knitted fairy, everything made sense. But when Cat Noir became Adrien, his heart sank, knowing he was fighting against fate, that these two souls are drawn to one another, whether it was now or down the road. Would it always be Adrien she chose, or could it possibly be him? The only way he would find out was to test it. How if you went with me, in any way that made you feel comfortable? We would have fun and dance. I was thinking of dressing up as Frankenstein. What were you gonna wear? I bet what you had designed was amazing. He gazed at her, knowing the subject of crafting would add a sparkle to her eyes. I had designed a pixie outfit. I had rewatched Thumbelina recently and got inspired, but now I'm not too sure. But you, as Frankenstein? That I would like to see. A hint of a smile began to break through. There was even a light chuckle to her voice, and the notes in his heart went up an octave. You would make a cute pixie. What do you say? I will pick you up at your place at 7? He smiled at her softly, feeling her internal melody shift back into a happier, lighter tune. He did that. I would be happy to go with you, Luca, and thank you for listening and making me smile. Somehow, you always seem to know how. She gently placed a hand on his shoulder, and a smile lit up her face. She placed her sketchbook back into her bag as he spun his guitar back onto his back, rising to his feet. I will see you later then, Marinette. She nodded. He wanted to reach out and touch her hand or offer a ride back on his bike, but she still needed time, and that he could give her. He stared at the makeshift outfit Julika had helped him craft. He had bought a pair of trousers and a jacket from a nearby charity shop he supported and helped in aid of music therapy. They weren't anything special and only cost him a few euros each. Julika had an idea of stitching on patches, adding minor details of tearing the fabric to look more worn, and colours from her paint set. Even Rose had rejoiced when she came round, remarking that Marinette would approve of crafting his own outfit and loved the details he had placed into it. He hadn't admitted it to anyone, that she had been on his mind as he came up with the idea. He even thought of reaching out to her and asking her for help. But they hadn't been in that place until today. Sitting with her as she cried over another boy, he had felt a shift in their relationship. It was returning to how it used to be between them. When they had broken up, part of the pain he had felt in losing a friend, his special friendship with the girl he loved as she avoided him. Now that he was getting it back, he would do anything not to lose it again, even if it meant helping her to be with the one she loved. Hey, Luca. I picked these up from a market stall. Thought they would add to the outfit. Julika held out a pair of rubber bolts and smiled. He hated how she hid away around her friends, muffling her voice, not worthy of being heard. the opposite around Rose and himself. Thanks, sis. Rose and I are heading out at 6:30 to meet Mylene and Ivan before we go. Want to join us? She said, holding out her black and purple witchy outfit. Well, actually, I bumped into Marinette in the gardens. She slid her fringe out of the way and stared at him. Did you ask her out again? Is it a date? I know you still love her. Luca dropped the rubber bolts onto her dresser, his fingers itching to pick up his guitar and play his emotions instead of using words. I asked her to go with me, but her song still sings for another. I'm supporting her. I have finally got my friend back, and I would do anything. His fingers plucked at the strings, whilst his other hand danced along the neck of the guitar, creating almost wistful melody. I know, brother, but it sounds like your heart sings a different tune from what you were telling me. Say what? I'll help you get ready. See if you can shine brighter. She gave him an endearing smile whilst holding out the chair in front of the dresser. Luca sighed and placed his guitar back on his bed, knowing he couldn't hide anything from his twin, and grateful for it. Once Julika applied some smoky makeup to his face on features other than his eyes, added the stitch marks with liquid eyeliner, she helped him attach the bolts. After his sister left with Rose, Luca sat on the top deck of the boat and played a tune he had called Secrets, as he contemplated if he should tell Marinette what he knows, that he'd always had kind of suspected she was Ladybug. Would that make a difference in their relationship, knowing she could rely on him? That what drove them apart wasn't there anymore, that he loved her more now than ever? Or he could give Adrien one last chance to open his eyes and see what Luca had always seen. He stood in front of the bakery and sent Marinette a quick message that he was waiting for her downstairs. His eyes lit up at the sight of her in a puffy orange pumpkin that was clearly too small for her now. Hey, love the outfit, but we might have to rethink the bike, he said, climbing off it and pushing it to the wall outside the bakery. She chuckled as a blush formed over her cheeks, making her eyes come alive. Sorry, change of outfit last minute. I mean, I'm still a pixie underneath, but I thought, it's fine, Marinette. Whatever you're comfortable with. Thanks. It's a lovely autumn night, and this thing is keeping me warm. How about the short walk? I mean, if you are warm enough. Sure. It'll be like walking with a huge pillow beside me. He chuckled, enjoying their friendship blossoming once more and how relaxed she seemed with him. What are you trying to say, Frank? That my lovely pumpkin looks like a pillow? His eye widened at the sudden nickname and the smirk across her lips. Frank? Yeah, tonight you are Frank. She chuckled as he tried to do a funny zombie walk towards her, resulting in Marinette attempting to run away from him towards the crossing awkwardly. His spirits soared as he descended into fits of giggles and offered her his arm as they walked along the street towards the hotel. Girl, what are you wearing? What happened to that amazing outfit you made? Alia gestured at the pumpkin. I'm wearing it, but at the moment I'm just more comfortable in this. Okay, girl. Alia smiled before catching Luca's gaze and noticed he was arm-linked with Marinette, who was shuffling against him as nerves returned. Hey, dudes! Nino arrived behind Alia wearing a ghoulish outfit. Love the outfit, Luca. And Marinette, didn't you wear that pumpkin in middle school Halloween dance? Yep. Shall we go in then? Marinette blushed, gesturing to the double doors. Good idea. Luca slid his hand from around her arm and gently cupped her hand around his, feeling a symphony erupt inside of him as his skin touched against hers once more. Inside looked like it was based on a set design for one of Jagged Stone's music videos, or should he say dad now? It was still strange getting used to the idea that this man he had idolized for was also his secret father. Suddenly he felt Marinette stop beside him, and her fingers tightened a little around his hand. His gaze went from her to what was catching her attention on the dance floor. Adrien had been dancing with Kagami, but had stopped to greet the group. As Adrien stared at Marinette, his gaze wasn't as warm and inviting, but rather confused and hurt. Luca sensed Marinette tighten against him, turning redder in her pumpkin suit, and gave her hand a slight squeeze, showing his support. Breaking her gaze with Adrien, she glanced up at him with a thankful smile, which caused Adrien to turn his back to the group. "I think we need to get some drinks. Marinette, help me, won't you?" "I can help," Luca added, then soon realized it was code for talk. "Thank you, but you boys get us a table, won't you, before they're all gone? Marinette will help." Marinette's hand slid out of his hold as she drifted off into the crowd. Nino tried to grab Adrien's attention, but he was looking at Luca. Frustration at his friend, Luca couldn't help throwing back a look of disappointment. He had been behaving childish towards Marinette. How he reacted when they arrived, knowing the impact it would be having on her heart. He knew he would have to do something bold to get a reaction off Adrien. Through the crowd, he saw Marinette emerge, transformed into a mythical creature. "There's the pixie I was hoping to see. You look stunning. And your melody is twinkling." He reached out and grabbed both of her hands, causing her to catch her breath. "I was getting too hot," she breathed. "Thank you." Luca could see Adrien in the corner of his eyes, shifting forward. If Luca was going to do something bold, now was the time. Maybe a shock would make him react and realize how he felt. But if he can't, then maybe he could. Perhaps he had a... Luca quickly glanced over at Adrien, making it direct, before he reached down and cupped his hands gently along her jawline, fixing her gaze onto him. "Do you trust me?" he whispered, her head nodding in his hand as he leant closer. His lips brushed against hers, awakening a longing he had denied himself for a while, telling himself it would never happen. Lost in the moment, his hand slid into her hair, pulling her a little closer, hoping for the moment she might kiss him back. But she pulled away as Adrien shouted her name across the dance floor. Looking baffled and confused at what just happened, Marinette threw Luca a questioning look, and then at Adrien, who had stumbled beside them, looking flustered and embarrassed. Sorry, but Marinette, may I talk with you for a moment, alone?" Adrien rubbed the back of his neck, refusing to look at Luca, and kept his gaze on Marinette. "Please?" Marinette turned a deep shade of red, glancing at the crowd that was forming around them, landing on Luca, but all he could do was smile and nodded. This was for her. If she was ever going to be happy with him, then she needed a chance with Adrien first, knowing Luca would always be here for her, always waiting for her. His melody darkened as he watched Marinette nod her head, hearing her nervous voice, "Sure?" before disappearing into the crowd with him. "Luca, what was that all about? Kissing her like that in front of Adrien?" "Oh." Alia stood beside him, her expression shifting as the realization kicked in. "You okay?" "As long as she is happy, I will be. Now, I'll get those drinks." He couldn't stand around and wait to hear the news. He'd only wished he had his guitar with him, his fingers itching for the touch of the strings to help soothe his thoughts. Whilst he was waiting in the line for the bar, Luca's phone went off with an Akuma alert amongst a wave of everyone else around him, warning him to evacuate the area and take shelter. Even though it was a regular occurrence, people couldn't help panicking as they gathered up their companions and loved ones, making their way to the nearest shelter. His gaze darted towards the direction Marinette and Adrien left in. Or should he say Ladybug and Cat Noir? Confirming to himself how perfect they were for each other, and yet not knowing it themselves. "Luca, have you seen Marinette?" Alia approached him, and then at the shifting scene in front. He knew she would be out there now, fighting the newest supervillain, but Alia didn't know, and she couldn't know he knew. Oh, how had life become this complicated? He needed to at least look like he was concerned, shouldn't he? "No, I'm gonna try calling her." He pressed on her number, knowing it would go to answer machine. "Adrian's probably got her to safety, but I'm gonna keep looking," Alia said before darting off in the opposite direction. Luca made his way to the street, trying to pull up the newsfeed on his phone, making sure that Ladybug was all right and that the battle was going well. What he hadn't expected was for Ladybug to land in front of him with a serious and yet disgruntled look on her face, gesturing him towards the nearest alleyway. "Luca Caffeine, I need Viperian to help me with this battle." She opened her yo-yo and pulled out his Miraculous from the white light and held it out in front of him. "I'm here for whatever you need, Ladybug," he said softly, and saw her expression relax just a little, knowing her friend was by her side. He slid on the bracelet and greeted Sass before calling out, "Sass, scale slither." "Thank you. Hold on." Ladybug whipped out her yo-yo and flung it into the air as Viperian wrapped his arms around her waist. He quickly glanced at her, seeing his Marinette behind the mask, who was strong, brave, and determined. They landed down on the rooftop as Cat Noir, perched near the edge, studying the surrounding chaos, spun round and faced them, his eyes narrowed into a glare. Viperian removed his arm from around Ladybug and took a couple of steps back, throwing a couple of more glances at Cat, who had strode over to join the pair. "How can I help, Ladybug?" "Yes. Explain to me again why we need him in this battle." Cat, ignoring Viperian, was staring at Ladybug as he quickly threw him a challenging side glance. "No offense, but we're a great team. Just the two of us." Ladybug rolled her eyes at Cat's action and moved to where he was sitting moments ago. "Cat, I explained. We discussed this. It makes sense to have a backup." She lowered her voice towards Cat. "I don't understand why you are being like this." Cat shrugged his shoulders. "I think sometimes we work best, just the two of us, that's all." "This one is too high risk to take that chance." She gestured for Viperian to join her. "So far we can tell Phantom is transparent." "Like a ghost," Cat added dryly. "Yes, thank you, Cat." He emits out this mist as he travels, causing the people to become fixed in some sort of trance, and turns transparent, floating around and through anything. She pointed to a person floating out at the side of a building. "I don't know what will happen if we get too close to them, but we can't get near the mist. That is why we need you. If we should fail..." "I understand." For a brief second, he could swear he heard a hiss coming from Cat. This was gonna get complicated. Cat, knowing it was Luca behind the mask, he knew it was Adrien, but neither of them knew he knew their identities, whilst Adrien, still mad at Luca for kissing Marinette, who was standing between them as Ladybug, but Adrien, or should he say Cat, didn't know that, whilst taking on a supervillain that could turn them into a ghost. What could go wrong? Thank you for listening to part 3 of The Triangle of Love. Part 4 will be coming out next week. So make sure you smash that like button. Comment down below what you think of it and what will happen next, and subscribe so you don't miss out on part 4 or any other videos that are coming soon. Okay, hope you enjoyed. Bye.